All right. Hello, Aquarius. Thank you so much for giving me a couple of minutes to get everything set up this morning. I was walking the dog, and then I needed to also do a little bit of extra research, excuse me, when I was looking at your channeled messages. And I don't like to rush anything, as you know, so thank you so much for giving me that time to prepare. First of all, welcome everyone. Apollo's still sleeping in the other room. He'll come in as we light the candles, and I'll make sure that I bring him here when we do that. And I have chosen today to set intentions with you, light the candles, and hopefully that will also help you get your month off in the right sort of energy. If you're brand new, let me just quickly introduce myself and let you know what we're going to do today. This is your monthly forecast. You can use it for any aspect of your chart that you happen to know. I welcome cross-watching, looking for other people that you love, and again, looking at the different aspects here. Specifically, most people look at it for Sun, Rising, Moon, and Venus. And I also have a special portion towards the very end where I will fine-tune the message for the Sun, Rising, and Moon signs. The way that I like to organize it, and little Apollo's making his appearance now, excuse me, is by focusing first on the channeled messages. Channeled messages for me come through dreams and meditation. And today we'll be focusing on the daisy for your main totem. I also jotted down a few messages from my dreams, which I might also include at the end. There was a lot of sort of exploring that was going on. So one of the cards that I featured in the channel messages was the Fool. And it's kind of like a reset energy too. So I feel like before we even begin, the opportunity for Aquarius this month is figuring out where to hit that reset. And I'm going to try to help you see that not only as we go through the channel messages, but eventually as we go through the Celtic Cross. So the rest of the organization is right here. We'll look at the Celtic Cross, which will give us the big sort of shape of the month. And then I let that take whatever form it needs to. And then we'll look at health, wealth, love, and destiny after that. The rest of it's very interactive. You'll have a chance to vote on some things. I'll have a chance to pick some things to focus on. And then, like I said, we're also going to go a little bit deeper into the Sun, Rising, and Moon. Okay, at the very end, if you have any questions, please hold your questions until then, and I will pull a single card to answer whatever top of mind question that you happen to have. All right, so that's the main organization. We're going to take a moment now to light candles together. I don't always do this. It kind of depends on the energy of each sign, but it feels like it would be good for you and I to work together on that. So let's do that. Let me grab my my match and get the candles, and we're going to together just focus for like 1 minute to get everything set for today. First things first, let's connect to source energy. So I like to just imagine sun, star, or moonlight shining down, or you can have a combination of those if you would like. And imagine that this beautiful silvery or golden energy is starting to wrap itself around you, almost like a blanket. And you feel connected, you feel safe. And when you're in that sort of astral light, I want you to set some sort of an intention to connect to only to source energy. So we're going to say, this is what I'm going to set. You can adjust it for yourself. Closing your eyes, saying thank you for being present today. Thank you, source energy, for coming through. Please come through and only provide energy of the highest good, that is clear, that is concise, that will lead all of us on our best possible path. Perfect. We'll do two at a time with these. Starting first with Archangel Michael. Please protect us so that we may focus on what we need to focus on, not worrying about having any sort of energy that's interfering and not connecting again to anything but source energy. Archangel Raphael, please come through today and provide healing for all those who need healing so that we can let go of things that no longer serve our highest good. And the last two candles here, one for Archangel Gabriel. Archangel Gabriel, allow me as a reader to be a clear channel, to say the right things at the right time to the right people, and to see everything that we need to see. For all of you out there, please, Archangel Gabriel, work with them to be a clear channel as well, to be discerning, and to be able to choose the best path in front of them. It is all about free will after all. And finally, to Ascended Masters, Guides, and Angels, whom we forgot to mention, please work with the ones that we already mentioned to continue to bring in the messages that we need to hear and see. I'd like to extend gratitude for everybody that's present today. Thank you for being here, for bringing your energy here, for spending time with me. And with that, we can begin. So let me go ahead and get the presentation set up. Again, we're going to be looking at the daisy today, which is a beautiful and very common flower, but I always try to pick some interesting facts and interesting aspects about these everyday totems that we see. All right, so the common daisy, or the English daisy, or just the daisy that you would see in your garden that has white petals and a yellow center. So when I was looking at the etymology, or the words that comprise both the genus name and also just the flower name, some interesting things came through. So the daisy is known as Bellis perennis, or beautiful perennial. Perennial is an everlasting sort of energy. We'll talk about that in a second. And the species name, or the genus name, is, I know Aster, but the last part I'm not going to even try to pronounce. Often considered the archetypal species of the name daisy. Okay, so you break down the first part of it, which is the common name, Bellis perennis, and it basically is beautiful, everlasting, or undying. And so beautiful and everlasting, basically. And then the last part is star. And so quite literally, it's kind of telling us that we are beautiful, resplendent beings. We have this everlasting, undying, or immortal soul. And it's telling us to focus on the star card. And we are stars. We're comprised of star dust and star energy here. So everything in this solar system is the result of a bigger star that went supernova. When our star dies, it's going to become a white dwarf. It'll go through a red giant phase, and then just the sort of core will remain. But bigger stars actually go supernova, and when they go supernova, the initial elements change, and they create heavier metals and rocks and things that we see all around our solar system. So everything that you see from the sun all the way out to Pluto and beyond is a result of one or more stars that went supernova. So we have that energy to burn brightly, to basically, we are celestial bodies, just physical now, no longer sort of in the sky. So this is reminding us of that importance of reconnecting with our source. I wrote a couple things at the end. The last sentence is the most important. We live many lives, but we live this one time. So make it count. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for retirement. Don't wait for someone to pass away. There's so many things that we sometimes wait for. And at the end of the day, we wish away our time. One of my great lessons, and I'm so glad I don't do this anymore, but for at least 2 or 3 years during my professional career, I would look at the clock and wait for 6 o'clock. Or I would look at the week and think, why isn't it Friday yet? And in retrospect, I look back and think, what a waste of time that was. What I should have done was, when that came through, decide to make a change. Either a change if I wanted to stay where I was, or just a change in my trajectory and get started on this a lot sooner. There were other things. I needed to kind of create a safety net for myself. So I've been there where sometimes, you know what you need, but you have resource limitations. But I would say even then, I could have found a way. So I would say for you, don't wish anything away. Don't wish this moment away. For people that want to fast forward through my readings and want me just to get to the point, I'm like, you're missing a lot of this stuff that will only come through if we kind of take our time and enjoy. So savor things. Don't rush, and don't wish away. That's not the way I work, and that's because I've learned that there's important things. The stuff that you should be spending time on, sometimes you don't. And then the things that you're missing some of the bigger things because you are fast forwarding on that. So try not to do that. Love begins within. I think all of us when we were kids learned that. Well, maybe they don't do this anymore because there's really no recess anymore, but when I was a kid and there was recess, I definitely learned that game of whether it was a daisy or a sunflower or some sort of random weed that you would pick up that was blooming, sort of like he or she loves me or they love me not. And the interesting thing with that game, besides destroying a beautiful flower, is that it's flawed. You're focusing externally on someone else and their love for you. And really, the game should be, I love myself or I don't love myself, and you need to focus on it if there is no self-love. Love begins within. This game, which we are kind of handed down as a child, it basically sets us up for frustration because it's helping us to learn that we're supposed to focus on someone else as a validation of ourself or our self-love. So the daisy comes through, and so does the Ace of Cups, as a reminder that you in and of yourself are more than enough for any person, opportunity, or thing that you're trying to put your energy into. The energy around you reacts to that acceptance and that celebration of self. This is not about a narcissistic view. It's about loving who you are and believing that you have something to offer. It's self-respect, self-appreciation, and self-love. Like energy attracts like energy. So when you are loving and accepting of yourself, you attract people that are loving and accepting of themselves and loving and accepting of you. It's a partnership rather than a teaching sort of situation. So a lot of times when we have things like a lack of confidence, or we've been set up to sort of not trust people and things of that nature, also not trust our own emotions, then we start to bring relationships in to teach, to heal, and to move us beyond those mistaken beliefs. So focusing on your self-acceptance, self-love, and understanding who you are and what makes you tick, that's going to be the most important thing. Forget about tearing the petals from the daisy. Who cares if he or she loves you? I mean, I'm not saying that, and it's kind of like more of a, not in a dismissive way, but if you don't love yourself, that love won't matter so much. It's just going to be a codependency. So you've got to love yourself and stop taking the petals off daisies, all right? Anyway, that's what this particular totem is also saying. You're worth loving, you're worth it, you're more than enough. And when you believe that, then you won't have to pull the petals off the daisies. There's a multi-layered approach here, and this is a chance for you to step back and kind of take control over a situation. And what happens sometimes here is we end up getting on the wrong track, which is why I put the chariot there. So sometimes we're going down a different path, a different road. And a daisy is kind of interesting because if you look at it closely, there's little tiny flowers at the center, kind of like this floret. Let me see if I can pull up an image. This is what I was going to do for you. So hold on a second. But there's a flower within a flower. So let me just look at common daisy, and I'll just do a quick search on the internet. I can't really show one image for copyright reasons, but I can do a quick Google for you and just kind of show you for one moment what I'm talking about. All right, so the common daisy, here we see like a nice little Google search of everything. You can see that there's flowers around the center, and if you were to zoom in on the yellow portion of it, you would actually see that there is little tiny flowers as well in that center part. So we focus sometimes just on the outer petals, but in reality, it's also the little flowers within the flowers, and then there's like, those have little petals as well. There's this multi-layered approach where it's almost like a Russian doll, a doll within a doll within a doll. So something may seem simple on the surface, but there are more things to consider. So make sure that you're zooming out enough in whatever is happening in your life to see the bigger picture and the bigger design and get back on the right path. And that's why I chose the chariot, because we have to sort of decide, am I going to get side railed on this and sidetracked on this, or am I going to go right back where I need to and focus on the bigger picture? The name Daisy actually also, I went deep in etymology or name meanings, because I think there's a lot of power in words and the resonance with words. But Daisy also has an Anglo-Saxon sort of origin to it. And it basically is you can take it back to the meaning of day's eyes, because it looks like the new eyes that open up with each day. So what I liked about this is using a fresh set of eyes, or a fresh view for each day. The one card in tarot that indicates a reset, of course, would be the Fool. And it's basically saying, if you can walk into today without regret, without a grudge, without sadness, without anything that holds you back or colors or maybe even discolors what's in front of you, then you have a chance to really embrace opportunity and, again, what's available to you. So what a great totem, right? The daisy. I don't think I've done it before. The past couple of days have been brand new ones. I push myself. I'm like, come on, universe, send me something new. And they showed me the daisy today, and I really, really like it for you. So this is the card that kind of, and this is the message here that I think is going to be important as we enter into the Celtic Cross, which is how can we look at life with a new set of eyes, with a new vision, and how can we make the month of July and beyond fantastic for you, okay? And yeah, I'm looking at some of the comments. Yeah, leave some food for the bees. Also, interesting that you mentioned bees. Of course, it's a sign of, it's a magnetic energy, just like the lovers, and because we're seeing pollen and all of that too. So anytime I bring up a flower totem, it shows abundance, and it shows, again, the ability to attract things to you. The common daisy, I think I had it in one of the slides, and I might have forgotten to mention it. But if left unchecked, it can... Actually, I think there's one more slide left. Let me double check here. Yes, there's one more slide. If left unchecked, it can sometimes become like a weed for some species. So what I was looking at here was the beauty of the Nine of Pentacles, one of my favorite cards. And basically, we see someone tending to the garden and then also looking at how beautiful that garden has grown. So when it comes to finances, when it comes to lover relationships or work, there is a reward for the hard work that you put in. Of course, we always mention the snail, which is the time that it takes. Sometimes it feels like it's crawling, but it's worth it at the end of the day here. So what we see here is the ability for something to spread in a good way. So you have outreach energy coming through, you have the abundance that we were just hitting on there, but there's also a need to sort of figure out, how do I shape it, how do I push it in the right direction, so it's not just growing like a weed, or that things don't get overgrown or overlooked, and then you're not going to have as much abundance as you might otherwise have. So both the restraint that's necessary and the sort of loving energy that's necessary to gardening or to being a farmer, and then also just the abundance and the reward that comes for the time and energy that you put into it. Okay? So there you go. Beautiful stuff. Let's get ready for today's reading. If you have any suggestions or requests, let me know. I was able to locate, I think, yes, I found one yesterday, or there was a request yesterday for a deck that I couldn't find, and I found it today. So I'm going to put the Green Witch out here for consideration. I may also pull a really old one here, because it was right by the one that I was looking at here, and the Morgan Greer. So I put a couple of older ones. If there's any other requests, let me know. I like to shake things up occasionally, so let me zoom in on the two decks that I kind of thought of this morning, and then I'm open to some other suggestions as we're getting this set up, and then we'll say hi to Apollo before I get into the reading. All right, so these are two that I haven't used in a while. What else would you guys like to see here? I could pull, I have like Light Seers. I could also do Divine Tarot of the Divine. Let's see. I'm going to look to the side and see what other ones are calling to me. The Radiant Rider-Waite-Smith is actually a great choice. I don't always use it for public readings, but this is definitely one that I use for myself all the time. And then maybe we could do something different. Okay, maybe Raven's Prophecy. These are completely different ones. I don't use these all the time, so I wanted to do something special for Aquarius. Okay, so here we go. Let me get this set up here, and we'll go from there. You can tell that this one is very well used. I've had it for a long time, since like 2013, I think, this one. All right, so give me a second to set this up. We have the Green Witch Tarot. I couldn't find it yesterday, but I found it for today. Morgan Greer, also one of the older decks that I have. The Radiant Rider-Waite, and the beautiful Raven's Prophecy. And I'll let you take a look at these so you know what you're voting on. All right, so this would be the first one. This is Green Witch. It has a beautiful sort of earthy vibe towards it, and I like it quite a bit. This is the Morgan Greer deck. It's from the 70s. It definitely has a retro feel, super bright, sort of like celebration colors on it, and very close up, focused more on the people. This is a standard. I very rarely I don't think I use it on purpose for any reading, but this is Radiant Rider-Waite, and it's the deck that I travel with. It's also, I have a small version to the side. It's my go-to. I have other versions of Rider-Waite, but that's my favorite because they've brightened up the colors. And then we have Raven's Prophecy here, which is a fairly new deck. I just bought this last Halloween, but it didn't come in time for me to use, so I've been kind of randomly pushing it out at different readings. Really nice, not a Rider-Waite-Smith standard deck. It's one where the author basically decided to use their own illustrations and their own energy there. So let's see which one is in the lead. It looks like we have it's very close to these two, and we've got 69 people voting and about 275 people watching. So let's throw in a couple more votes and make this a clear win. And if not, I might just do these two because they're close enough to constitute a tie. So let me go ahead and put the other ones to the side because it's really between these two. Okay, close enough. The Radiant Rider-Waite is actually the winner, and we'll use Green Witch maybe for the extended portion because it's pretty darn close. Yeah, Rider-Waite's great. By the way, I'll show you some of my other favorite ones that I have, Rider-Waite ones. Let's see, I have one handy. So let's see, I have a Universal Rider-Waite, which is great. And there's one other one, I don't think I have it out here, but I basically have all of the derivatives, and this is kind of my favorite. I do have a traditional, really big one here. So this is the only one that I have that's just Rider-Waite-Smith. The one reason that I don't love just the general one is because they smoothed out the illustrations on this, so it looks a little bit better. This one's quite nice too. It's a little softer. So maybe in the future I'll use that one as another option. All right, let's go and see what's coming through here. And whenever Apollo feels like he wants to come up, we'll bring him up here. But for now, let's focus on getting everything set up. All right. One of the things I do love about using a Rider-Waite-Smith deck is you don't have to do any sort of mental translations or work that hard mentally. You just kind of like pick up on the energies. And especially when you're looking at some of the Pentacles cards, they just pop right out of the deck. I love it. Okay. We have a theme of moving and moving on with the Eight of Cups and the Six of Swords. So that'll be interesting on seeing how this kind of factors out for all of you. All right, very beautiful spread here. I feel like we can deal with all the energies that it's presenting and providing us. And definitely there's a shift or a sort of movement to try something new or go in a new direction. So let's get started here. All right, so your catalyst card today is the Hummingbird Spirit. For me, this is a personal totem that comes through that tells me everything's going to be okay. And it also reminds me to focus on what's important. So if I'm having a bad day or if I'm losing connection with what I should be focusing on. A lot of times when I walk Apollo, the hummingbirds will they will get right up in your face almost sometimes and just hover there for a second. They'll be drinking from their flower, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, you, pay attention, things are going to be all right. Take your energy and bring it to a higher place. Focus on possibilities, on not just sort of being positive for the sake of positive, but really looking for the silver lining in a situation, and just trust that the universe is conspiring for your benefit, not against you. And that's, to me, what the hummingbird represents. Never mind the fact that it is one of the most beautiful little birds out there. Always iridescent. You can see almost the whole rainbow on it. Things start to pick up too. Picking up the pace, things are going to move faster, because that's basically what a hummingbird does. It's constantly moving around. Okay, so this is good. This is saying, don't despair, don't give up. This is a turn for the better. And if you change your perspective, and if you pick up the pace and focus on things, you'll see positive traction, positive movement, and you're going to feel better about the situation. All right. Now let's take a look at your center card, the brightest one in the spread, and the one that's kind of telling you to redirect. And we actually see some redirection happening here with your 3 center cards reversed. Most of your cards are, I do shuffle and I do read reversals, and I don't worry about reversals. Reversals give me additional meanings, and whether you read them or not, there's still sort of energy that you would pick up. So there's a subtle movement. And if we actually pay attention to the one card that came through upright, and then we can consider this one the same, we see moving forward or moving on, and then moving on. So there's a little bit of resistance in moving on, and I'm going to try to help you with that today. One of the things that is interesting to consider is, it feels some of you have worked really hard to get to this moment in time. And sometimes when you've reached that pinnacle, when you've gotten to the top of the mountain, there's a feeling like, I want to go in this direction, or maybe I want to go back and try something else, but it took so long to get here. What if I'm making a mistake? What if I wish that I had stayed? Well, there could also be the regret of not having tried something new and something different. So this card is saying, don't stay just because you're comfortable. Don't stay just because you're expected. We're always allowed to and encouraged to move in a different direction, or to explore, or to expand. So by all means, if you're being called in a different direction, this is the time. You've got to listen to that calling. The other thing that a Page of Pentacles in reverse can indicate is that you're being given an offer or an opportunity, but you need to sit with it for a second. It needs to marinate with your energy, and you have to figure out, do I want this? You have the option to say no to anything that's being put in front of you. You also can say, I've worked really hard for what I have, and now I want to invest in myself, or I need a little bit more here. So in an exchange, or in some sort of a, what am I trying to say? If you're going into talk about like salary, so a negotiation. So in any sort of negotiation, you would want to say, this is what I need, or this is the bare minimum, or this is best and final offer, like if you're buying a house or something. Make sure you're getting what you need. Okay, at the end of the day, either a fulfilling path in front of you, or you're getting enough resources for yourself, or if you've worked hard, you take care of yourself and do something that matters. So it's a focusing on self, but in a good way, and you have to communicate it, because pages communicate. Even if we're not dealing with swords, pages are the go-between. So you have to tell someone what you want or need, or have to express interest in it. If you express interest in it, you have a very good chance of getting what you want, okay? Things will happen quicker than you expected. So one of the challenges as we look at the next 6 to 8 weeks is to keep up, is to make sure that you are not dragging behind because of distraction, fear, anxiety, or just a lack of motivation. So that's why the first card matters. You need to feel like you're getting what you need, and you're moving in the right direction, and this is going to help you keep the pace. The Knight of Wands also wants you not just to show up, but to show who you are and what you want, because people are attracted to that sort of that energy of movement. There's no better way to sort of say it, but like when you are, think of people in your life that are just really captivating. It's very rarely the person that's sitting down half asleep at their desk, not really engaging in a conversation. It's probably the person that is actively listening. You can see their eyes connecting to you. Their face is animated. You can tell what their reaction is. They're talking to you. They're connecting with you. So moving isn't just going from this point to this point. It's also sort of like moving the energy between the two of you. So in communication, use your body, use the nonverbals. Also use any sort of displays or graphical images, some sort of visual aid. And then also just lead by example. You may be leading the entire effort, and sometimes it's scary to be in front, right? To be leading the race, but that's okay. We don't always need the validation that you're a good person, you're doing what you need to be doing, here's a gold star. If it feels right and you're doing what's right, keep up the work, and eventually that Six of Wands validation will find its way to you. Deep past. Don't lose track of what you had initially set out to do. So the Two of Wands is about visualization, understanding, and also setting an intention for something. The reversal simply means that sometimes we get lost along the way. Sometimes we get distracted. Sometimes we're not just giving ourselves enough time to maybe take a quick pulse check and think, how does this feel in relation to what I was originally setting out to do? How do I feel about it? Who cares if I get the A+, the gold star, or the acceptance? Do I feel good about this? Does this feel right for me? So for you, I would say really focus on resetting intention, not just setting intention. If you haven't set it, obviously set the intention. But if you've lost focus, ground yourself, reset intention, and carry with you the thought that I'm doing this. Not I can do this or I will do this. I am doing this. This is happening. This is real. And sometimes that's the moment for any of you that have had to kind of get real about something, whether it is the reality of something coming together, falling apart, or understanding who you are. It is the moment where you take the word to be and the verb to be, and it's in its present tense. You're making it active, not a future tense, not a past tense, but present tense verb. So we want to keep things active. I'm doing this. It's happening. It's real. And maybe that's the mantra for whatever it is that you're trying to manifest. I'm doing this. It's happening. It's real. It's obtainable. And then focus on that and then just look for it then. Because this is a card that looks at the prototype and then looks at the real world too. Small, macro, and micro basically is what we see here. The world around him and the world in his hands. So that's what you want to focus on, is connecting to that vision and seeing it manifest and remembering it's happening. All I have to do is figure out where it's happening and connect to that. And that's where I can be powerful. I always see the sister card, which hasn't yet shown up, but she may later, is the High Priestess. Sometimes the Magician, but usually the High Priestess and the Two of Wands. I see them as siblings. You need to have the vision in order to use the vision. And so the two of these are stronger together. So all you have to do is reclaim that. It's in the deep past. You know what you were trying to set out to do. The question is, are you succeeding at that, or do you need to make some adjustments? We have patience being tried a little bit as we look at recent past. Since we're looking a little bit into the future, many of you are going through that energy of, why is it taking so long? The other thing is like, how do I begin? And temperance reminds us that it's one step at a time. That we don't have to go so far, so fast that we lose our footing. So temperance always has one foot in the water, one foot on land. We see a new day in the background on this card. And we also see the flowers or the lilies growing right beside the water here. So growth, just like the Nine of Pentacles, takes time, and it's one step followed by the next. It would be nice in this time where we can, download a whole book in 30 seconds on our Kindle device to be able to also get everything we need, in a moment's notice, but it isn't always that way. So one thing that technology has done maybe in a not so good way to us is kind of like shortened our attention span and our patience. So if you can be more patient with yourself and with the development and the movement of things, it could then surprise you and pick up the pace. It's when we are impatient and not observant of what's going on that it drags a little bit. So just imagine, I was talking to one of my neighbors here who's plugged in metaphysically, and we were talking about things that we do when we manifest. So one thing that I like to tag on to manifestation is all of this or greater. All of this or more than I imagined, something better than I imagined, because that gives the universe a chance to give you an upgrade. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is to say, allow this to happen within this time or sooner if it can. So all of this or better, or this time or sooner. Let the universe surprise you and be open to being surprised at something happening easier, quicker, and better than you imagined. In the highest good for you too, not just rushing things, but sometimes the universe already has what you're looking for, and it just needed you to let go of needing it right now, and it needed you to imagine that it could be better than what you imagine. Because if you only imagine one thing and your template is stuck here and there's something a little bit bigger and a little bit better, you're missing it because it's kind of like you've got blinders on. So let's flick those blinders off and imagine bigger, better, sooner, and it's all going to be okay. And that's what I would kind of say with the Temperance card in reverse. Keep an open mind towards things. The Eight of Swords is the prison that we create for ourselves. Interesting that this is one of the other upright cards. So one of the things that you want to do, this card I'd actually like to see reversed. So the Eight of Swords it comes through when sometimes we think ourselves into a prison. So everything that I just said about opening your mind, you can use that to negate the Eight of Swords. It's feeling stuck, it's limiting thoughts. I would say this is like a sibling of the Devil card because the Devil likes to work with fear of the unknown, fear of ambiguity, and fear in general. So let's remove the fear or the unknown elements through educating ourselves, through keeping an open mind, through taking off the blinders or the sort of sometimes the desire to sweep something under the rug. That happens more with Two of Swords than Eight of Swords, but sometimes we just kind of close it all out. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know. It's always better to know, because then you have the knowledge and the preparation and the understanding of what's real. So this is basically just encouraging you to not be afraid, to educate yourself, and to look at what's right in front of you. And if you do that, you'll be all right. What's causing some of the friction? Well, as we look here at your near future, we have a limit of resources or the desire for the universe for you to focus on one thing. So the Two of Pentacles comes through when we basically cannot continue to do everything for everyone. It can indicate work and life imbalances. So maybe you're working too much and there's not enough time that you're spending with friends, family, or loved ones. Maybe you are focusing so much on your love life that your school or work is going by the wayside. Or maybe there's something else in your life that's pulling you in a new direction. So basically, we're seeing that it's time to decide, am I in, am I out? Do I want to do this or do I want to do that? You have to make a choice with the Two of Pentacles, or you need to ask for help and delegate. Because if you continue to stretch yourself, that sort of rubber band that's wrapping these two coins together, it will snap at some point. So know your limits, say no, delegate, and choose something. Choose a path. Vacillating between two choices, it's not going to be sustainable in the long run. And also, if you have a couple of opportunities or people around you and you're either put in the middle or you have to make a choice, this card is saying you can't play the middle constantly. You're gonna have to pick something. And it's hard sometimes when you don't have someone to vet that option out with, but that's when you figure out who you are, right? So trust in your ability to know what's right and wrong and then choose. And if you do that, you're gonna be okay. If you're having a difficult time, make a list of pros and cons, or go with the first thing that feels right to you. With Two of Swords, with Two of Wands, with Two of Pentacles, you can always decide to, add or subtract or revise your idea a little bit, but you have to take that first step. And when we look at Temperance here, I think for some of you, it's taking that first step that's scaring you or making you a little bit nervous, okay? It will be all right. Of course, there is a general resource note with this, which is don't overextend. So this isn't a month to overspend, overpromise your time. You definitely want to be mindful of limitations and do your best to work within them, okay? Let's take a look at how you're showing up here. We have, this card's actually good to have reversed. The Nine of Swords in reverse, which is saying, I'm not afraid anymore, and I'm understanding that sometimes I can be my own worst enemy, or that I can make something out to be bigger than it is. So this card is reminding you that You can overcome your fears. You're already doing that. People may look to you and see more bravery or more skill or more courage than you feel within, but you're starting to realize that it's there. It's the awakening moment. Sometimes I reference the Matrix. It's kind of like when Neo is facing those agents and he realizes, wait a second, I can stop the bullet. I can see this. I can see that. I'm no longer beholden to the system. So you're starting to see through some of the training that you got as a kid when we were talking about he loves me, not the daisy sort of thing, focusing less on the exterior and more on your power. When you focus on your power and your capacity to shift something, it's just a dream or it's just a nightmare. It's not going to hold you back. It's just a fear. So you're overcoming your fear this month in a big way. How is that going to happen? Well, you're going to reclaim power. Here we have in your environment someone who wishes or wants to kind of keep you where you're at. Emperor or Empress energy reversed, very similar. So basically it's someone else who also might have outstayed their welcome or maybe in a position where they know that their time there is kind of limited. So this could be someone who sees you as a threat, let's put it that way. So in a work environment, it's someone who sees someone younger, equally as strong, very talented, and instead of fostering and embracing this sort of great energy, they may compete against it or they may try to hold it back. In day-to-day life, it can be mom, dad, sister, brother, or a mentor who also wants you to kind of remain dependent upon them. And it's kind of like the antithesis of what a teacher should do, which is give you the tools so that you can graduate, move on, and maybe ultimately teach as well. So empowerment is missing. There's power and there's the capability for this person to empower you, but for some reason, they're holding on or holding back a little bit. So you, this month, may be faced with the difficult decision to walk away or pull away from someone who is controlling a little bit, is holding on a little bit. And it can be difficult, especially if it is a family member, because they know exactly how to get under your skin and how to kind of work the psychology. But you're going to be stronger than that, and just understand that you are maturing. You are coming into your own. You're much stronger than they can sometimes imagine or give you credit for. Okay? So pull out your managerial boss control energy. I did the Chariot earlier, but the Emperor is the same here. Emperor, Empress, Chariot. There are a few cards of boss and control. These all constitute that. So power struggle. And by the way, the Two of Pentacles can be a power struggle. You can do this. You've got this. That's why this card is coming through. They see you as a threat to their authority or their seniority, and you're fine. You may just be underestimating yourself. If you say, Nicholas, I am a student, or I'm not working, or I'm retired. This is also about remembering that age doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want to do within reason, within your body's capacity to do it. So don't look at ageist sort of views. And it's also saying that you still have even more power than you're giving yourself credit for, okay? And because the Emperor is reversed, it's also saying get off of your seat and get out there and see the world. Because Kings and Queens are great cards, and the Emperor and the Empress are great cards, but they tend to be sedentary. They tend to be set in their ways. So this is also about shaking things up and trying something from a different perspective. Okay. Moving on to hopes, fears, and opportunities. This has been coming up a lot, actually, the Eight of Cups, making and breaking a cycle. The question for you really is, where do you sit right now on your sort of current path? Some of you may be needing a little bit of a break, but you're not ready to make a full disconnect. So this card can indicate a leave of absence, a sabbatical, a vacation, or just some time off to get your head on straight, to figure out, how do I feel about that? And again, who am I? What's going on inside? The reversal of this usually does indicate that it's time to move on or to move away from something. And so I guess the question for you would be just to decide, how do you feel about that? Where are you at with that? There's always a chance here to come back. And so the only sort of thing to think about with the Eight of Cups is, if you keep the door open, are you keeping someone sort of hanging or waiting for your decision, for you to sort of figure out what's going on? If you are, then you could be doing both yourself and them a discredit by leaving them hanging. So it's some sort of venture on this journey. Figure out where you stand and let them know. Because otherwise, the Eight of Cups, it is 1 foot in the future and 1 foot in the past. And we want you to be kind of like in the present and future, or all in the kind of like moving forward, not kind of holding on to what was. All right. So this is sort of begging you to walk through the portal rather than straddling the portal on both sides and trying to keep what was as well as what may be. It's a good time for you to set a new path or a new course whenever I've got the Eight of Cups, whether it's upright or reversed, it doesn't matter. So now is a good time to start something new. Let something go, start something new. It's kind of like when you go out and purchase like some new clothing. A good rule of thumb would be to go in and let go of something old. So if you just got a new suit or a new blouse or a new cardigan or whatever it is that you're buying, put that in there and get rid of something old so that the space is equal and even and the energy is open and it's not sort of like building up. So out with the old, in with the new is what I'm really getting with this particular card. Some of you may also need a little bit of a vacation or a journey just to have some fun, to reset and to get creative again. So travel is good with this. And it's usually going back to something that we've done before. It can also be an old person coming in from your past and reconnecting. So there's some old karmic energy that wants to resolve itself. Ultimately, I do see moving on as a piece of this because your outcome card for the Celtic Cross for the month ahead is the Six of Swords. So this can be moving on, breaking up, traveling, deciding to create some distance between you and someone else. No matter how you slice it, there's moving on, or outreach. It's not just about standing still. So everything is setting you up to reach beyond what you thought was possible. We can even go there metaphorically. I love this card in your outcome because if any of you are feeling like I am stuck, I am stagnating, I'm not where I need to be, then this particular card is saying, well, buckle your seatbelts because by the end of the month, you're going to see movement. Okay? So that's really cool. One difference, by the way, on this this particular deck versus I think the regular Rider-Waite-Smith is they actually spell out the numbers, which I appreciate because I don't always want to do Roman math in my head. IXXXI, sometimes the Roman numerals drive me crazy. So one other benefit with this deck is they just spell it out, which is nice. Anyway, that's your sort of general outlook for this month. And again, as we look at it, there's a lot of reversals, but your upright cards are really telling. Something is right in front of you and is ready to be seen. Once you see that, you can move on. And also, you're being asked to lead the charge. So you might be ahead of a bunch of other ships that are eventually going to follow you as well. So I like the cards that are upright because they tell a very interesting story. And where you're holding on, it's easy for you to release if you're ready and willing. And as we look at this expanded forecast here, health, wealth, love, and destiny, I'll help you with just that. We're going to start with your health card, which is multifaceted. One thing that I like to remind you whenever I'm looking at health is I'm here to help you with the metaphysical piece. If there's physical or mental components, you can work with professionals in your life for that. I'm going to help you with choices and energy that affect all of the other stuff. So with that clarification in mind, let's take a look at what's coming through for health. We have Mother Mary coming through with the caption, love and peace, let go of the need to be right. Oh, that's hard, isn't it? Let go of the need to be right, choose peace. And in particular, there's possibility for healing with mothers at this time. Of course, I would expect that with Mother Mary. So we could also see a peace offering or kind of like the peace pipe, smoking the peace pipe. You could just say like at this moment in time, why are we fighting? Is it worth it? Is this person even worth my energetic investment? The thoughts that are required, the neurons that have to be fired in my brain for me to sit there and think about this person? Or could I just choose to let it go and move down a different path? And obviously this is rhetorical. It's better to move on. You may have to fire up a few neutrons just to, not neutrons, but neurons just to kind of get past something, but try not to waste brain power, okay? Let's kind of look at all the cards here and get some additional insight on how to be healthy and happy right now. And that's really what the health card is all about. Okay, so let's see what's going on with you and with health. Quality of sleep whenever I get the Nine of Swords, particularly when I focus it on the health component, that's key. So if you're having any recurring nightmares, dreams, or stresses, obviously you can talk to a professional about this. Also, one thing that I would do is to look into it. So whenever I have dream messages come through, I like to look up the totem, or I like to think about what does that represent. So I'll give you some examples of different things that may seem odd, but then when you think about them later, it makes sense. So sometimes if you see a leaky roof in your dream, it can represent the need to sort of like firm up the foundations in your life, or to make sure that if there is something going on and you don't feel secure, or you don't feel like you've got the full picture, to kind of make sure it's okay. Because if your roof is leaking, everything's going to fall apart. And sometimes it can indicate like a glass ceiling, or again, an artificial block that's not really there. You need to firm something up, or you need to look a little deeper. After my mom had passed, she'd shown me this sort of image of her looking through an eye. And I realized what she was showing me is, I can see you, but you're not looking at me, or you can't see me. Also, she told me to go to like the eye doctor. There was two pieces to it because I was having some irritation, but the ocular piece was to look at things from different angles, or she can see it differently. So symbols are fun in dreams. Sometimes they don't make a lot of sense. If you see something you don't like a spider, I actually see spiders as being super powerful. A lot of times on Celtic cards, well, actually some of the Celtic decks do have this, but the illustrated ones have it a little bit more, like the Wild Unknown. You will see spiders, and also the Star Seekers deck. And you'll basically see spiders and webs with the like Eight of Pentacles and the Wheel of Fortune. To me, it says you reap what you sow. You can weave your own fate. You have the capacity to capture or get what you need in your life. So sometimes something that we would be afraid of, I look at it as a totem, and it's very powerful. It's very strong. So always make sure that you're looking at those dream messages and see what they have to offer. Let's see what else we can garner from this. Work-life balance, again, making sure you're getting enough sleep, making sure that you're eating well, making sure that everything's balanced. It can also be, generally speaking, just your balance. So if you're having any inner ear issues, of course, go to an ear, nose, throat specialist. This also has to do with just general diet and making sure that you're getting enough food, enough protein, enough rest. So just diet and work-life balance. Most of the things are manageable here. Speaking of eyes, if you get the Two of Swords or the Eight of Swords in a spread, it just means take care of your eyes, and don't ignore something that's going on in your body. So if you feel something's out of sorts a little bit, talk to that specialist. The good news is most of these are pretty manageable, and I feel like you're going to be okay. All right. And if you do want to start something new, a new exercise routine or new diet or something of that nature, the Eight of Cups, again, supports that. Okay? Generally, pretty good. Pay attention to what your body's telling you. Get the proper balance that you need, sleep and diet, exercise, etc., and focus on what's going on with your dreams and with your sleep, and also just kind of like clear and clean out the bedroom. That's key. I am getting some joint stuff whenever I get the Emperor card here as well. There could be things in your environment that are causing that to be exacerbated. So it could be the weather, it could be how you're seated, whatever. So take a look at that as well. All right, let's move on to wealth and see what the message is here. It says, reaching your destination. This card is nicely connected to the Two of Wands. Your light is shining brightly. We see the dreaming sort of energy that would be a part of the Two of Wands, dreaming and vision work. And then also all these beautiful little bubbles saying, I can get there faster. I can find a way. So some of you may feel like you haven't reached the goals that you wanted to reach yet. Some of you may be feeling like those goals or those dreams are fragile because we see them floating in a bubble in a little castle in the sky. So let's see how we can make these more tangible, more obtainable. All right. So the biggest challenge for you right now is making good use of resources. I do believe you actually have enough, but you might be spending the sort of time, energy, or money not in the wisest way with the Two of Pentacles in reverse. So this is saying, be smarter about what you want to do and what you don't want to do. Say yes, say no, and say it with authority. Don't be afraid to take some of what you've saved up and invest it on something for yourself. Obviously, this is not the time to stretch yourself too far, too thin. So you want to do everything within reason and make sure that you have a contingency or a backup plan. For some of you, that might mean 1 or 2 extra months or 1 or 2 extra years before you make that big leap. But for the rest of you, it's just saying, I'm going to focus on this and I'm going to let this go. And by doing that, I basically have translated or transmuted this 2 of Pentacles into an ace. So you have enough, but you have to sacrifice something. You have to say no to something. Some of you do not feel like you're being seen. You're not being acknowledged. You're not being supported. For some of you, the stress of the situation is bothering you a bit. For some of you, it's a seniority issue or an age sort of issue. And so in these situations, it's either going to balance itself out or you're going to decide, I need some space or I'm going to find my own way. Okay, so I definitely see for many of you this moving up or moving on energy. And if it can't happen where you're at, it has to happen somewhere else. This can constitute energy in a relationship or a work environment. It can also just be a living situation, but there's a need to kind of move on. And I see a little bit of reluctance or resistance with the 8 of Cups, but you eventually get there with the 6 of Swords. Give yourself enough time so that you're not just jumping from the frying pan into the fire. You want to make sure that the next move is an upgrade for you. Better relationship, better job, better house, better something. And if not, then be patient until you feel the right fit for you. Just the same way if you were kind of like trying on shoes. You wouldn't try on shoes that were too small and then buy those, or too narrow, or just too uncomfortable, like some material that didn't give. You need room to move. You need room to grow, especially when you're a kid. If you remember, you would want shoes that just had a little bit of give to them. Okay, so same sort of thing. This next situation should be comfortable, but there's room to grow. All right, let's move on from that. Actually, let me see if there's anything else here. If you're job seeking, one last note here, definitely reach beyond your current network or maybe even look at different cities, countries, or provinces because you could find success in work elsewhere. If you're self-employed or you're a small business, this can be the first step towards globalization, I should say, of your business. Definitely starting to reach out in markets that you wouldn't have normally done, even using things like social media to test the outreach. It feels like you're missing something big or that you're not being seen. So working on reimagining your image or getting back to the basics and saying, this is who I am, and just stating it so people can understand what that is. Simplification of the image may be important too, because when we looked at the daisy, it's simple on its surface, but it represents a lot. Good brands, they are iconic. They actually, one thing that I've noticed with like cars over the past 20 years. So maybe in the 80s and 90s, you would see a logo with a word mark or a brand name underneath it. In the past 20 years, the names and the words have been replaced with icons because we're kind of getting used to iconography after, the graphic user interface came through in the late 80s and 90s. So now we will see just like, the symbol for a Honda or the symbol for a Toyota or for a Tesla or for the Audi, the rings. Actually, they're one of the first ones that kind of, maybe leaned into just the symbology rather than the words. So a simple image can represent something complex. If you could boil down who you are iconically into something and then also in as few words as possible. Good slogans do the same thing, like Nike, just do it. Or back in the day, Apple, think different. Even though it was bad grammar, it said we're unusual, we do things in a unique way. And Nike was encouraging you to just get outside and start working. So just a few words can help. So think about, what would your brand be? So I can do mine in just maybe 4 words: raising the collective consciousness. That's what I try to do. I also try to normalize spirituality. I try to encourage intelligent conversations around spirituality as well. So those are some bullet points for what I do. If I was in the elevator talking to someone, rather than saying I'm a tarot card reader and I work on YouTube and I do monthly and they're focusing on weird things if I do that. So I would say I'm a producer. I create content online, and I try to raise consciousness in doing so. That's like the most concise, most businessy version of what I do. And it took me maybe 7 years or so to get to that point where I could do it nice and concise like that. But the more concise you can get, the better. And that's going to help you get people aligned to your vision, because there was a little struggling around that. So for some of you, it may be, maybe you enjoy animals or children and you're like, I want to make this a better planet for future generations of human beings, particularly the children. My focus is on children. You may care about wildlife and sustainability or animals, and you say, I care about animal welfare. I care about the planet in general, and I'm trying to heal and help those who can't be helped, particularly animals and maybe the planet itself, who's advocating for it. So boil it down into something concise and easy to understand, and then how you do it, you can have a deeper conversation. Okay, so the way that you can get at this is make a list of all the things you do and think, well, what do these share in common? And what's the umbrella over top of all of these things? So think of your icon, your brand, who you are, and think of the 2 or 3 words that you would sum up. It's a good exercise. You can also practice this with movies or books. So back when I was trying to pitch my book, I would think of like a big, deep movie series, like the first 3, not the prequel or the sequels, but like Star Wars, the ones in the 70s and 80s. The whole story arc is about redemption. And it's about the son finding a way to redeem his father's sins and also helping to save the universe and the whole thing. That's the movie. He's saving the universe, but he's doing it by saving his father. And in so doing, also saving himself. So that's it. Simple. There's a lot of other stuff. There's a Wookiee. There's space. There's Lando Calrissian and a bunch of other stuff. But at its core, it's about, because the father-son relationship is there for the whole thing. And until he resolves the issues with his father, until he helps his father see that there's still light within, then everything else is going to fall apart, including the future of the universe. So all it is about redemption. It's a story of redemption. There's different stories. There's love stories. There's redemption stories. There's, spiritual stories. Actually, I like the original trilogy because there's a lot of spirituality and a lot of interesting psychic stuff like telekinesis and telepathy and all of those things. So it's a fun psychic trilogy. And I think a lot of it got lost in the prequels and sequels, but the original 3 are pretty cool. All right. So think about summarizing and clarifying things so people can help you out. Okay, I see a lot of questions. So what you want to do is hold those questions until later. And remember, if you don't know what to do, give yourself a chance to sort of think this through. You and only you can kind of decide that. So focus on that. And if you are stuck or if you are asking specific questions, I just ask that you hold until the end. Okay? So I don't do pick a card readings here, and you can kind of just hold off until the end. All right, so let's go ahead and focus now on the next part of this reading. We're going to look at the love card, which I know we all care a lot about. How can we focus on relationships? How can we look at the initial part of this, which was, he loves me not. Here's the cool thing about this. We see reflections. And so a big thing of what I was talking about with like attracts like. So we see the trees upside down here, but it doesn't matter because in the reflection, you actually see the tree upright. You are exactly what you're sort of reflecting out into the world. So the big message here is the big thing that we're going to look at when I break it down into 3 parts is, what am I doing that, for those of you in a relationship, is causing the partner to do something? What is it that I'm doing that is maybe attracting or pushing away future partners? And if I'm single and happy, what am I doing that's kind of affecting my business partnerships and friendships? Okay, so let's focus on those 3 things, looking at those in a relationship right now. You are being asked to focus on personal development. The question right now is your partner on the same page with this? Will they support your desire to go back to school, to pick up a hobby, to take a little bit of time to fix something, maybe even work through therapy or whatever it is? You're basically wanting to invest in yourself. And the main question here is the partner on the same page? It does feel like one of you is kind of moving at a pretty fast pace. One is focusing more on getting grounded and really deciding to put your energy into something. If you are a stay-at-home dad or mom, or if you're a single mom or dad, one of the other challenges for you could also be limited resources and time. You're being asked to juggle this and do this in an inconvenient way. And I totally get that. When I was writing my first book, it took me forever. It took me about a decade because I only had so many hours in the day and I'd have to do it after work or before work. And I was tired. And so it took longer than I'd wanted it. So we don't always have the luxury of doing it all at once. Some of you may be a non-traditional student going, back to school and not having, the ability to just sort of like throw yourself into something in the way that you want to. But I'm going to say this, you're getting exactly what you need in the way that you need it. Just make sure that you're giving yourself enough time and enough energy, okay? And just to sort of like enjoy what you can. It's almost as if if you pile a bunch of stuff on your plate and you eat it really fast, you don't pay attention to it. But if you just put a few things and savor it, you get exactly what you need, and you can enjoy it a little bit more, especially for those of you that are like non-traditional students, aka an older student going back to school. You appreciate things a little bit more, and you're able to kind of like savor it and do better, even though you're not getting as much as the other people, as fast as the other people, slow and steady. It's like cooking. Sometimes there's more flavor to that, okay? So what we see here is a question of time and patience and resource allocation that's causing some stress in a relationship. The big question in existing relationships is, do you see me or do I see you? And if that doesn't sort of happen enough, there could be a feeling like you're moving away from me. I see this doesn't mean breakup necessarily. It's more like, are you making enough time? Do you see me? I feel distance. So the big challenge is distance. Some of you are maybe desiring for time and space, or maybe wanting to move on, but not ready to say it just yet. And so the big thing this month you want to focus on is being present, having that sort of intimacy of communication between you and your partner, talking about hopes and fears, and figuring out if you're still on the same page with the relationship. The interesting thing with this is that this card indicates that the door is open. The door is open, but one partner is a little bit distant, or is maybe requiring or desiring some space. So you have to figure out how to best give each other space, how to best support each other's endeavors, and if the space gets too distant, how to kind of like bridge the gap and how to be there for each other. All right, those are the main messages for existing relationships. For those of you that are looking for love, it's interesting this month because this card usually indicates you've lost touch with what it was that you're looking for. It feels like you knew in the past, but right now you're either not seeing it or you're not sure if you found it. And so you shouldn't have to vacillate too much when it comes to new relationships. I honestly feel, this is just me, but I can usually discern in a meeting of someone within a few minutes if we energetically are going to hit it off, and definitely at the end of a conversation or meal if there's a desire for more than that. Everyone can have a bad day, and that can always sort of like get in the way, but I would say 10 times out of 10, if I had a first interaction and it was bad, usually the future ones, it's hard to kind of recover from that. And I say this all the time, but rejection is protection. And sometimes we're being pushed away from something for a reason. So I don't freak out too much if it wasn't a great connection, if you didn't get off on the right foot, if it didn't work out, I'm like, that wasn't really meant to be. Sometimes things can turn around, your opinion can turn around, you can have a second chance, but it's better to pay attention to what you're being shown, how the person's showing up, how they're reacting to you. And you shouldn't have to think, well, everyone else likes you, so I should, like that line out of While You Were Sleeping, where Peter Gallagher wakes up and he's like, my parents love you, everyone here loves you, I guess I should too. That's not good. You shouldn't be convincing yourself into loving or connecting with someone. It should feel good because you want to. So if you don't feel it, don't do it. That's the ultimate sort of like, I was talking about iconic and quick and easy slogans to understand. You either feel it or you don't. Okay? Don't be afraid to say what you need to say or to do what you need to do. Don't be afraid to move on. Traveling and kind of like maybe even your partner may be coming from abroad. I'm seeing external energies coming into your life. I think that single and looking and single and happy are pretty much the same this month, because if you're single and looking, I'm not necessarily seeing it coming through. I think that there's some work to do on finishing something that you've started, finding a better balance in your life, getting rid of whatever fear might be holding you back, and then realizing that you're never too young or never too old. There could be also some sort of an age difference between you and your future partner. The Emperor in reverse means that the person's not as old or as young as they seem. It's not necessarily a May-December romance. It could just be, 5 to 7 years. But there might be someone who is a little older but acts a lot younger, or is young but has an old soul. It could be a big gap, but I'm not seeing it with the reversal of this. I think there's just someone who has deeper layers than they may first sort of display on your initial meeting, okay? If you're single and happy, I do think this is a great time for you to focus on travel and moving. I also think it's a really good time for you to get your finances together because that's gonna help you be set up for future success, okay? So across the board, pretty manageable, but it is a reset. Who am I? What do I want? What's going on with the distance between you and the ones that you love? How can you bridge the gap? Do you want to bridge the gap? Or is there a natural sort of dissolving that's happening between you and someone else? Fun fact, and then we'll move on to the Destiny card. But as you sort of energetically climb the ladder, it's not unusual. It's not even bad for this sort of disconnect to happen between you and old groups of friends. Because what happens is that you are changing. You're not the same person. They're not the same either. And just as like attracts like, when you've moved into a different energy, they get to choose to either upgrade or they can kind of stay where they're at and continue moving until they're ready. So sometimes as we energetically improve and clear things out, we'll lose touch with people. Doesn't mean that they're gone forever. I've recently kind of reconnected with a group of people that I hadn't seen for maybe 10 years, but they're different. Many of them got married. Some of them have experienced big changes in their life. And now that I meet up with them again, I think, oh, this is working. Because we've all changed. We all got older and wiser in the process of that time. So it doesn't mean that it's a forever thing. It means that you're just moving in a different path. So allow yourself to be where you are, even if that means that there's a little less connection between someone that there might have been before. Even for me, I reconnected with a best friend from high school that I hadn't seen for a long time. And now we're not back to where we were before, but there's a nice deep connection again, and it's different and it's better because we're adults. So you never know how or when someone may come back into your life. Just allow for the relationships to sort of take the paths that they need to, and not hold on unnecessarily to something that needs time and space. All right, now we'll go to your Destiny card. We have the Druid here holding the space, everything that I just talked about. The card is reversed, so there's impatience with this, but the big opportunity this month is to build, hold, create, and trust that the space that you have is going to be what you need for something to inhabit it. So the old movie from the 80s, Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. Same sort of energy, but this is about different things in your life. Creating space in your heart for love. Creating room in your life for new people, for new experiences. Keeping an open mind so that different ways of engaging with the world or thinking can enter it. Space is both literal and figurative. And just because something isn't there yet doesn't mean that it won't be there tomorrow or next week or next year. So it's keeping the dream alive, keeping the vision alive, and knowing that just as in gardening, if you've planted seeds, bulbs, or a start, you're not going to see the full plan overnight. It's not Jack and the Beanstalk. That's a fable. That's a fairy tale. It takes longer for things to grow. So things worth creating take time and energy and nurturing. All right, let's go ahead now and take a look at the big idea. We're going to swap decks for this one because we had two that were just a point or two away from each other. So for the big idea, I'm going to take a look at one thing that can kind of move you in the best possible direction. By the way, the Druid to me reminds me of the Magician. So you can do anything you put your mind to. So let's see with this card what you should be focusing on. Interesting that we got two Nine of Swords coming through, and both times they came through reversed. This is a more beautiful illustration. Let's take a look at it. All right, so we have the Nine of Swords, and this time we see like a little bat in the outside. So I actually think bats are a wonderful totem, and there's some cool things that we can pull from that. So first of all, what you should or shouldn't be focusing on. The reversal would say you shouldn't be focusing on your fears. The totem, the bat contained within the card, is saying you should listen. Listen to what is going on around you. Listen to your heart. Listen to your intuition. That won't lead you astray. Fear, it can lead you on a path that you shouldn't be on. It can hold you still. Usually fear is an anchor. Sometimes it makes us flee in the wrong direction, but a lot of times it can make us stay still because we're afraid of the unknown. So don't let fear either chase you away from a dream or hold you still when you should be moving. Listen, because bats don't look at what's in front of them. They use sonar in their ears to kind of pick it up. So focus on intuition, the things that you're not going to readily hear and see, and then also focus on what people say to you, especially when it's positive, but you don't want to believe it. So if someone says, I think you're great for this, do you want to do it? And internally you think, I can't do this. That's the fear speaking. It's not what they're saying. If someone has chosen you for some other opportunity or suggests, hey, you should talk to this person, I think they would like you or whatever, and you're like, oh, no, they're out of my league or whatever. When people see opportunities, choose to listen to the opportunities that are being presented and listen to some of the positive feedback that you're getting. It may be hard for some of you to believe it. If I choose another line from movies like Pretty Woman, Julia Roberts is telling Richard Gere that when he's saying good things about her, she said it's the bad stuff is easier to believe. And in real life, it's easier to believe the bad because it holds us back, it protects us, and putting ourselves out there, we face the possibility of rejection, the possibility of negative feedback. But that's all this card is fear. So we have to do a double underline under fear to focus on not letting that be your end all and be all. Okay? I heard someone saying that it was freezing up. Hopefully it's not freezing up. Give me an indication if you're seeing that. I only see one person. By the way, sometimes if you're watching this on a mobile device, it's simply, a connection issue on your end. I'm looking at this really quick and I'm not seeing anything here and I didn't get any feedback. So hopefully everything is okay. Good. Yeah, it's just one person. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead now and focus on the next piece. We're going to look at your blessings and your blocks. So blessings and blocks, just how they sound, one thing that's going to really help, one thing that is going to potentially distract you, and we're going to help you avoid the distraction. Okay? Blessing, block. All right, so looking at the blessing and the block. Okay, so the blessing this month is the Queen of Wands in reverse. When I was thinking of the totem today, if it was the sunflower, I would have actually highlighted the Queen of Wands. We see here with almost any flower, so I could have done it for today as well. The Queen of Wands in reverse is saying, you can do this, but people are not, kind of like waiting for you to indicate what it is that you want. So we see her with her wand, which reminds me a lot of like a conductor. And so with the boss energy that is absolutely a part of Queen of Wands, part of it is showing, part of it is pointing, part of it is leading the way. So many of you are just being asked to step forward and give it a shot, give it a try, see what happens. Show what you can do. So this is your time to shine. And if you feel completely stuck in a moment in time, in a problem that's in front of you, I think that the important thing to look at right now is how can I think myself out of this? What can I do to counteract this? Because the Queen of Wands always has a rabbit up her sleeve. She always has a way to look around it. Okay? So if there is anything where you feel like you're stuck, realize that you're not as stuck as you believe, that if you look to the right, look to the left, look within, ask for some help, you're going to find a solution to this, okay? I keep seeing a bunch of people saying it's frozen. I'm not getting any indication, and I actually have a monitor on the side here. So if it was literally for a blip of a second because I can see myself talking right now. So for anybody that's having an issue, just quit and come back, and it should be okay, all right? But if there was a moment, it does appear to have come and gone. If there was anything that you've missed, you can put it in the sort of chat here. No one else is having an issue. I really think it's just a couple people. To the side, I have an iPad where I can see myself, and usually if there's a problem, it'll be frozen there, and it's not. Okay, focusing now on the block. We have the Ten of Swords coming through. This Ten of Swords is quite beautiful. So we see someone here at the center of a campfire, and we see all these swords around them. With this particular Ten of Swords, what I like about it is there's this sort of indication that sometimes we can create our own problems. We can, almost like painting ourselves into a corner, we can do that through our communication. So there's a reminder here that as you speak, you just want to focus on remembering that it's kind of like what I'm doing. Everything that I say, it's getting recorded. Fun fact, everything that we say and do is recorded in the Akashic records. So what you want to remember is that if you wouldn't want this shared with a future version of yourself, with your mom, with your friend, with someone else, don't say it, don't do it. And that will hold you back from all of that. All right, let's stop with what's going on. We're good. I see it in the chat here. Let's just focus on the messages now. So with this, it's basically biting your lip, biting your tongue, and saying to yourself, all right, it would be fun to say or do this, but I'm going to hold back because how would I feel 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now if I do this? If I don't think it would be good, I'm not going to do it. So lead by example. Continue thinking of something that's way outside of the box. Sometimes the weirder the better. That's your blessing. And the block here is just to make sure that you don't do something that is unnecessarily complicated or may come back and in some way, shape, or form haunt you in the future. You want to do something that makes sense. So avoid unnecessary arguments, avoid taking the bait, and avoid doing something out of the energy of fear or revenge. Okay? Great, thank you so much. All right, we're gonna move on now from blessings and blocks to the viewers and the reader's choice. So thank you so much for all the comments. We don't need to keep validating it. I've said that before. It keeps popping up and it's actually distracting me at this point. So, all right, let's focus now on the next piece, which is some options for you to vote on, okay? So let me get this set up for you and take a look here. All right. So as we're looking at all of this, because we got the Nine of Swords several times, let's look at ways to overcome fear. Ways to overcome fear. The next thing that I'd like to look at is how to, this is about investing in oneself or asking for what you need. So how to ask for what you need, which is so hard to do, right? A lot of times it's just like, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? The next thing here is whenever I get the Eight of Cups here, it's like making and breaking cycles. I also see a really good option here with the distance here. So I'm going to put in like stay or go for those of you that are trying to figure out what's going on with that. So that's enough for you to vote on. And now let's go ahead and focus on something that I feel is worth the time and energy here. I want to look at forgiveness because this particular card can indicate forgiveness between you and a parent or you and someone else. The Ten of Swords may also indicate that someone's done or said something that is requiring or kind of like bringing in the energy of forgiveness. Okay? Two of Cups. All right, this is a great card for the energy of forgiveness or figuring out how to resolve some sort of situation here. So we have the Two of Cups in reverse, but the Two of Cups is basically saying here that a face-to-face communication is going to be so much better than texting and email. And I get frustrated nowadays with thankfully, most of my friends were able and willing to pick up the phone, and that's great. But like sometimes, especially after a long day, if someone goes back and forth and you're like texting tomes of information to each other, like let's say page after page after page, that can be frustrating. So, and also a lot of context can get lost, or the tone of your voice can get lost in that. So if there's a difficult conversation, it's fine if you're just talking about fun stuff or setting a time and a date and things of that nature. But if it's sort of like deep, deep things and it's it's a convenient time to just pick up the phone, it will be better for you, particularly if there's a need to be forgiven, to either FaceTime or meet in person. So especially if it's a difficult conversation, if you do a face-to-face, people can't get as, not all, but most people will tend to be on better behavior. So if you can do that, or if you can see their face, you're going to have a way to read their cues and figure out if what you're saying is effective, and also if they're ready and willing to receive and connect with you energetically. So face-to-face is better for your important conversations. For more than let's meet at this time, or just random chatter that sometimes happens in chat, or just checking in on someone. If it's a deep soul conversation about something that you need to do in your life, or something that's bothering you, do yourself a favor this month, especially if we're looking at anyone that is an ascendant in Aquarius or rising, where you're going to be doing this for work or negotiations. Face-to-face matters. Okay? Let's go ahead now and see what's coming through for the winning choice here, and it's the ways to overcome fear. I agree with you. I feel like we were hit over the head with the the Nine of Swords a few times. So let's take a look at how or why the fear cards are coming through for you. And we have the Six of Cups. So for some of you, there's a lot at stake. And because you care so much about someone, there could be this desire to make sure that you don't let them down. So it could be you feel like you owe it to your friends, to your community, to your public, whatever your public is. Again, it could just be whoever you're trying to help, not to let them down. So fear of rejection from someone that you love. The card was reversed, so one thing to remember here is that you should also be expecting love and support from them. Don't be afraid to kind of put yourself out there. If it's truly unconditional love, they're going to be there for you. And sometimes we don't know until we say or do it. So if you've been wanting to, go on a different path creatively, if you've been dating someone and you're afraid of what people might think, if you don't want a family and you're feeling pressured into starting one, whatever it is that you want or don't want, the more you are capable of being your authentic self, the more you can experience the joy that we got on this hummingbird card, and the quicker that things are going to change for the better. We see a caged bird on this card, which is really interesting. So it looks like a canary to me. And so you may just be that sort of canary in a situation like in a coal mine, where you're the first to notice that something needs to change before everyone else. They would take a canary in just to make sure that as long as it was alive, they were okay. If it died, then the air wasn't safe to breathe and they needed to move out. So you want to get out of a situation before it makes you feel like you're being suffocated or not sort of allowed to grow or expand in the way that you need to. So free yourself from the prison that sometimes can be family or community or even like a religious group where they're like, you must do this. I feel like some of you may be at that point where you're like, but in order for me to grow, I need to try this, I need to try this, I need to try this. The interesting things with the thing with the Eight of Swords is that's what this card can be in different decks. I forget which one illustrates it. It might be the St. Croix deck, but I think there's a card in that one that might look like, or it might be one of the newer ones like Starseeker, but there's one where you actually see it almost as being a cage. So this is the prison that we create ourselves. So don't allow yourself to be hemmed in by fears, and don't let someone else's fears of you trying something that's not what they expected, again, holding you back, okay? Ultimately, this is still a very good card. What I see with this card is love and support. So if not the person that you're fixating on, someone else will come in and say, I've got your back. It's going to be okay. You can do this. Okay? So don't do it just because it's expected. Don't do it just for your family. Don't do it just because. Do it instead because you feel like this is the right thing, because your inner sort of higher self is saying that I must do it, and then you attract that energy. We want to let go of the bird in the cage. You're the bird in the cage in this metaphor. So allow yourself to be free, allow yourself to explore, allow yourself to find your own space. And then if the people love you enough, they'll follow you as well. Okay? Perfect. Let's move on to sun, rising, and moon messages for this month. I think we can maybe swap back to the Radiant deck for this portion. And we're going to take a look now and see what's coming through for these different aspects of your chart. Sun, for those of you that are born under Aquarius, sun is going to be basically who you are at your core, at yourself. Whether or not other people see that, this is what's coming through. Rising and ascendant, how you project yourself, how you're being received, how the world is receiving you. The moon could be things about you that you don't share with everyone. It could be what's hiding. It could be your secret power. We'll have to wait and see what the cards show us. So let's go ahead and pull one for each and take a look at the messages. Sun, rising, moon. Some exciting cards for all of you. All right, let's begin with sun. For many of you, this month is a time where you're feeling, I need to just let this out. It could be a creative flow. So for those of you that are artists or really focused on just sort of finding something that inspires you, there could be more coming through than you're able, ready, or even willing to understand how to deal with. So find creative outlets. You could also be dealing with some emotionally taxing or trying things. It could be a little bit of both, where you're feeling a lot, but you also have a lot that you want to get done. So your challenge is going to be in, how can I take care of myself? How can I let this go? How can I also channel all of this into something constructive? Invariably, when I get Knight of Cups in reverse, it is a good card where I would say it makes sense to talk to someone about what you're feeling. Knights reversed also say, if we take a step back, we can save some time. So if you're feeling overly emotional, take a step back from everything, feel those feelings, and figure out what you want to do. What you do now to sort of like take an assessment and kind of like sort it all out will save you 10 times the amount of time and effort that you would have to spend in the future in backtracking. So take a day, take a week, take a month, fix things now so that the foundation doesn't get unsteady. And you have to feel good about where you're going and what you're doing. And until you feel good, hit the pause button and figure it out. Once you do, then you're going to be galloping ahead. Everything's okay. Love could be coming through this month and it's unexpected or inconvenient or coming out of left field. So you have to, again, slow down for a second and think, whoa, okay. I've been wanting that. I didn't want it right now, but that's sometimes what the universe does. It throws you a curveball because you weren't focusing on it, because you weren't expecting it. It's challenging your expectations. So all you have to do is feel it out and think, how do I feel about this? And it's not a difficult question. So yesterday I went to the optometrist for my annual exam and to get some new prescriptions and everything. And one piece of advice she gave that was good, and it's good for this too. She said, when you're looking through the, is this better or this better? She said, don't overthink it. One of them is better. She's basically saying, first impression, your intuition, what feels best the first time is right. She said, otherwise, everything's going to just look blurry or you're going to be confused. So same thing as going to the optometrist. How do you feel? What does it look like? That first impression is the best impression. All right? And that's the message here for the sun sign. Don't overthink. I know it's hard, Aquarius. Almost any of the placements is hard, but especially sun and rising. Okay, for Aquarius rising, we have a power card. It's a good month if you're Aquarius rising. We have the Empress coming through. So when you're ready and when you slow down a little bit, you start to find your pacing, you start to find your power. And this month you're being given a chance to sit into that sort of energy of control and leadership and authority and do some fun things with it. So say yes to opportunities of leadership. Say yes if someone says, I think you could lead the charge here. I think you could be the person that could teach or mentor here. Or yes, if you want to take on more responsibility, raise your hand and say, I feel passionate about this. Could I chair this committee? Could I lead this effort? Could I research this a little bit more and get back to you? Whatever it is you want to do, this is seeing your own potential and going for it, claiming your throne, okay? Good energy. Definitely some healing with respect to mothers, because we talked about that earlier. And when I looked at that healing card or forgiveness card, it's kind of interesting with the Six of Cups. Remembering here that the only way to truly be free is to give yourself and others a chance to kind of, it's like a dog being off leash, just kind of run around and have some fun. You should have this opportunity to spread your wings and give others the same opportunity. The Empress upright knows how to do that. Reverse, she's afraid. So you're going to show others maybe what they didn't show to you. Lead by example. For our moon signs, big, massive changes are on the horizon for you. We've got the World card here in reverse. So there is a distrust or disbelief in the sort of speed with which things are happening, the nature in which they're happening, or that they can happen. The World card is here to say, get on board because change is coming through, like it or not. Part of you may not want the change to happen. The moon part wants you to sort of like be safe, put your roots here and not move. But the world is coming through to say there's something about your life right now that's requiring a subtle movement. And we saw the Six of Swords. It could simply just be travel. It could be you connecting with someone that's completely outside of your group of friends, or being exposed to culture or food or music that is different than what you expected. And that's going to open your mind and open your world to better things. So again, Aquarius moon, you may be ready for travel, moving, maybe something big like a new job or a new relationship or an ending of something of that nature is happening. But either way, it's for the better. The world is resetting the stage for you for future growth and expansion. It's still a card of expansion. So even or especially if something falls away, something bigger, better, as we said at the beginning, or brighter can come through, and it can happen faster than you think. Those are your manifestation mantras. Bigger, better, brighter, faster, and for the highest good. And especially Aquarius moon, be open to an upgrade and don't question the upgrade if it comes through. That, my friends, is the main part of this reading. We're going to get ready for 2 additional things here. So before I do that, a couple of quick notes. If you just joined, hit the subscribe button so you will have a chance to know of future readings if you haven't already subscribed. Hit the like button as well. It's free and it helps YouTube realize that this is decent content and they'll serve it up to other folks. Join me on social media, please. It's a great way to connect. It's a good way to know what I'm going to be reading that day. A reminder, if you do join me on social media, I don't offer private readings, and I don't have more than one account. Everything that you see here is the valid ones. It's basically just my name or my name and first initial, last name on Twitter, and that's it. There's a lot of folks out there that pretend to be people on YouTube or Instagram, and they're not. So avoid anyone that reaches out and asks for money in a text or a direct message. That's not me. If you need information on my schedule, you can go to my website. And if you'd like to show some love and support in real time, you can do it with SuperStickers, SuperChat, and any of the built-in YouTube features. Okay, so let's get ready for the meditation today. And as we get ready for the meditation, remember there's a chance to answer that last question that some of you have. So at the beginning, I saw a bunch of questions coming through. So hold those questions, and then after we meditate, we'll take a look at them. So as we look at everything today, there's some common themes here, but let's just look at these cards here. There's sleep quality and dreams. There's being able to kind of like open your eyes and also kind of like go into the next big phase or part of your journey. So let's do that, okay? So let's focus on expansion. And I think what could be nice here is to think of a supernova. Let's imagine that your energy has done as much as it can in this particular phase, and we're going to expand and create something new, almost like a stargate. And from that, there'll be a new sun and a new solar system that's born. I kind of like that energy. All right. So let's prepare for that, and I'm going to give you a chance to vote on instruments. I have a really new bowl that I like here, but I've had some issues on other social media platforms with it, so I'm probably going to stick to the same old ones for now until I'm sure that I can use it here, and then hopefully I can introduce it in the future. But for now, you have a choice between my crystal pyramid and my traditional singing bowl. I'll let you know when or if I can use the new one. Otherwise, I might just save it for occasional lives. All right. So let's get set up here, folks. All I need you to do right now is close your eyes and imagine that you are a resplendent star in the sky and that you've lived for, a few billion years, maybe 13 billion years. You've seen the beginning of the universe, and now you're going to step into a new phase of existence. As you take this deep breath and as you imagine yourself as a solar deity or a solar body of energy in the sky, you feel kind of like that bird that we saw in a cage, that it's time to move on, that the bonds that were holding you together, it's time for some of those to break. So as you start to stretch your energy out, you feel that within the core, something shifts. When a star goes supernova, I think that something like iron starts to be created in the core. So there's something in your heart that's saying, I need to shift, I need to move. And everything for a moment comes into a single point of light. Now imagine that in this moment, you could project in this little tiny point of light everything that you want. And that all you have to do is trust that this is going to happen. So there's a decision as you do this that it's going to be. All I have to do is wish it and breathe it into existence. And somewhere there's just this sense of it's going to be okay. You hear a whisper from heaven saying, let it go. It's going to be fine. Let it be, like the Beatles song, right? So just let it be, let it go, let what needs to happen, happen. Breathe and surrender to the absolute truth and possibility of what you see in front of you. And as you do that, you see the old star dissipate, and you see this new universe in front of you. Now, we can be a little bit more metaphorical with this. So imagine that instead of planets and solar systems, you're seeing a path in front of you. You're seeing new light within you. A new star has formed from the ashes of the old, and you see new opportunities, new friendships, new alliances, and a portal of energy in front of you where the new you and this new world is waiting. So all I want you to do is to step through that portal and to allow for things to take shape and take form. I'm going to play the crystal pyramid here in just a moment. And as I play the pyramid, all you have to do is focus on something that you receive from the universe. It could just be a feeling. Not all of you are visual. So if you don't visualize things, just get that sense of I'll be okay. It's happening. I can see it. For some of you that are more visual, maybe there's going to be a cue of what to do or how to do it. So just relax and enjoy, and we will look at your final card after this. Whatever you feel has been holding you back, see the energy of this newborn star clearing through those old cords. See only clear horizons, clear days ahead, and let go of all that was, and focusing instead on building, on creating, on dreaming. If you can see it, you can do it. Remember. As you find yourself on the other end of this portal of energy, allow yourself to feel this newfound sense of joy. Back at the beginning, we talked about the sort of, was it Anglo-Saxon for what the daisy, that word meant, and it was basically like the day's eyes, being able to see a new day through a fresh set of eyes, unencumbered by anything that you had experienced previously. Definitely the wiser for it, but not feeling like you have to repeat history. That's actually the antithesis of why we're here. We're here to make a new story, which is why oftentimes when we're looking for soulmates, they can sometimes hold us back a little bit if that's all that we're looking for, because it's old karma. So create a new story, turn a new page, meet someone for the first time, experience something for the first time, taste something for the first time, try something new, and see where it takes you. Okay, let's get back into our bodies. Rub your hands together. Put your left hand on your heart, your right hand on top of that. Take a few deep breaths. Allow yourself to slowly get back into your earthly body. Pulling with it, though, that experience of wisdom, the reset energetically, and that feeling that you are lighter and brighter. And let's get ready now for the final card. I'm going to switch decks for this one as well, kind of going back and forth between the two top choices. For this, all I need you to do is to think about whatever question you might have for me. Hold that in your mind, and let's give the cards a shuffle and see what's coming through. Okay, another Knight reversed. We have the Knight of Wands reversed, and the Knight of Wands came through where? At the center of the spread. So we're getting validation on this. A couple of things to think about with the Knight of Wands. First of all, as a simple yes or no, it would be a yes. There is a caveat with it. There's some ellipses after the yes. I would say yes, ... but make sure that you are taking time to pay attention to the signs along the way. When we look really closely at this one, we see the little sign for the village, we see the bird in the distance, and we see that she has this wand as well, and she's sort of figuring out, how do I feel about this? Am I taking direction from someone else? Am I taking direction from within? Slow down long enough to know if it's you that's doing it because you want to do it, or if it's because you're being told. Also, again, leading the charge or leading by example is a consistent thread that comes through. But as a yes-no, it's a yes. There's a slight delay potentially with the card reversed. There's a slight change of direction, but it will not take you off the bigger sort of journey and the destination that you're trying to find. So slow down long enough to validate I'm in the right place at the right time, and I'm doing what I want to do because it feels right. And I'm not simply taking a direction or information and regurgitating it. I'm doing my own take on this. So your individuality is a big part of this as well. Okay, but otherwise it's a yes. Look around a little bit. What you're seeking may be right in front of you. There could be something obvious that's kind of going beyond your peripheral vision, and that could cause a little bit of a delay for you. All right, let's wrap this up, and we'll see if we can bring Apollo in at the end. I'll ask him if he wants to go on a walk, but we'll wait until he comes back for that. At this point, I'd like to simply say thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today, for working on yourselves, and for creating a nice safe space for us to do so. I see a lot of folks that I remember or recognize here that have been here for a while. So thank you so much if you're a long-time subscriber or if you've been in chat for a while. And thanks to all the folks with green text that are also monthly members and give back. I appreciate you, and you allow me to continue to do and try new things here on the channel. So thank you very much. Before we get into calling out new members or anyone that gave through Super Sticker or Super Chat, I'd also like to just give you my updated schedule for the next few days. As you know, every weekend I like to show up and do a live reading. So I will be here this Sunday to help you navigate the next 7 days. So join me for the collective, if you will. On Monday, I have a reading with Pisces. It's missing actually from my, here it is. Yes, it's on my website. So on Monday, I'll be doing Pisces. And then I have a special bonus reading coming up on Thursday. Whenever I have an extra day in the calendar month, I throw a bonus, and actually I've been trying to do 2 bonus readings per month. So I'll take a look and see what's coming through this week. I was noticing actually on my watch, I think that there's a new moon that's on the horizon, but it may have already happened by then. So a lot of times what I do on the bonus readings is whatever I'm being drawn to do, I'll do. Hey buddy, welcome back. So we're going to say thanks to the channel members, and then I'll bring Apollo up for the very last piece. He wanted to sleep this morning because it's still early my time. Okay, so for the new channel members, I'd like to recognize Fire. So thank you so much for rejoining. Krista Cowie, I think it is. Thank you very much. Brand new member there. Starshine Leo 811, I believe, joined yesterday. Francine Lazon as well. Thank you. And that's everyone from the last 2 days. I'd also like to say thank you to those that gave super stickers or super chats. So give me a moment to pull that up and I will acknowledge you. All right, so for today, kicking things off, we have the initials BF, so thank you very much. Stephanie Santiago, Leslie Horan, Sohir Jamani, Cherry Wolf, or Sherry Wolf, and then Mermaid Crystal. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys. And I think that's everybody. So let's pull up Sleeping Beauty and we'll let Apollo say goodbye to all of us today. Hey buddy, want to say hi? And then we'll go for a walk. Mm-hmm. All right, we have our fuzzy and friendly co-host here, Apollo. I hope everybody enjoyed today's reading. Do something fun. Oh, I know, it's so hard, buddy. You live such a hard life, right? To be reincarnated as one of my pets would be a good thing. All right, everybody, I hope you're having a great day. Lots of love and light from this little furry guy and I'm going to take him for a walk and wake him up a little bit. Thanks, Apollo. And thanks to all of you for being here today. I wish you all the best, okay? Take care. Bye-bye.